All right, guys, let's move on to the next one, which is rejoining a networking group or provisors. So just so you know, provisors is a national networking group of about 7,000 professional services practitioners. It's absolutely not for everybody. All right, so just so we're clear, it's not for everybody. But if you have time to invest in a networking endeavor where you're not looking, it's not going to be like there's going to be a ton of GCs or CEOs there. It's going to be mainly professional services practitioners. But if that's where you get the majority of your leads, the majority of your business from referral sources, it's a great way to build relationships locally or nationally. Okay. So Keith, you want to talk about provisors for a minute, and then we'll talk more about networking in general.
Yeah, sure. Something like provisors, the first thing you should probably know when going into it is it's a slow burn. I mean, you are really into it, not to just get business immediately. It does happen, but mostly it's just you're there to develop a relationship, right? And so how do you do that? You start meeting with people, just like we're talking about here, doing just basically strategic partner meetings. Figure out who are your friends, right? Who can you really work with? Who can you gel with? The beautiful part about provisors is if you know that a particular a discipline is your strategic partner, you can just do a search throughout the website and figure out, okay, these are the 10 people in Chicago who probably are my strategic partners. And you can always reach out to them and say, hey, I'm a provisors member. Let's go out and have lunch. And you've got to just cultivate those relationships. As I heard what you said earlier, Jay, was that you didn't really put the work in at that time. I've seen people who put a heck of a lot of work in, go to every single meeting, and then I've seen some people who just kind of put a minimum amount of work in. Generally, the more work you do put in, the more relationships and the more meetings you have, the better it's going to work out for you. And the more, in this class, we're talking about follow-up, right? We're testing people out. You just want to make sure that whatever you say to other people that you follow up on, right? And if you don't, that you just kind of you acknowledge that you didn't follow up on it, and that you're that you're going to make a new promise and make sure it gets done now. Because what I've noticed is that I've been a part of two of these groups, right? KLTR was the predecessor to Provisors, and now I'm in Provisors. With KLTR, I was in there for about 8 years. It took about 4 or 5 years, and then almost like 50% of my business came from them in some way. Because there you're going to get a referral from them, but you're also going to do marketing with them. You're going to do seminars. You're going to do all these different types of things. And that is going to lead you to more business later on. Now with Provisors, I'm starting to get a referral every few weeks, but it took about 4 or 5 years to get here. So just long-term is what I'm thinking.
And part of what I want to help you all with, whether it's provisors or any networking, any conference, anything where you have the ability to get work, is to work on our best practices for those skills. And, if I got my claws into Keith 4 years ago, I'm not saying it would have been doing a lot better than he's doing now, but we would have gotten, right? We would have developed stronger relationships. I mean, he's done a great job, so I shouldn't say that, but.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay. But it's like, there are all these things. Like, there's a reason I wrote a book on networking. There's so many things that people are doing that are, when they're networking, that are inefficient, that aren't getting the relationships built, that aren't getting across the finish line as it relates to not only referrals, but development of strategic partners. What's a strategic partner, Jay?
So a strategic partner would be, maybe another lawyer who can refer business to you, and you can refer business to them. So they're usually not in your practice area. Yeah, so that's my understanding of strategic partner.
So it's not a one and done, a one timer. Like, there's people that refer me one time. It comes out of the blue. They mention my name to someone, and that's how they got me, and that was that. Okay. And there's other situations, like I've got a recruiter in Chicago, and that's how I met Amir. Okay. And I think I've got 2 or 3 other clients from that same recruiter. So she's someone I need to stay in touch with. She's someone I need to have on my podcast. She's someone that I need to continually meet with and talk to, because she's interacting with clients all the time that may not have the book that they need or want to have, and she can refer them to me very easily. Okay. So that's really what we're looking for out of networking, is to develop what I call a strategic partner dream team. So let's go around. How many people, let's just go around the horn real fast. I'm just going to call on like 4 or 5 of you real quick. Clint, how many strategic partners do you have right now? These are people that routinely refer you regular work, maybe multiple times a year. One. Okay. Greg Abrams.
How many refer me?
How many
Strategic
people
partners?
do you have? Yeah, that just you're their go-to guy for labor and employment.
A couple, but often it's turns out to not be the right fit. But there's some
Okay.
people that I think I'm their go-to guy in that area.
Okay. Got it. Greg Stone.
That actually leads to work. It's rare, but that leads to introductions to investigate. I've got 2.
Okay. 2. Kevin.
I'd say 5 or 6, but the majority of mine are kind of what you described, kind of more of the one-off random referral.
Okay. So the idea is that that provisors, for example, what's nice about it is that everyone's sort of qualified in. People have been in business for 10 years. People that are not serious about networking don't join because it's like $2,000 to get in. And it's a little bit like, and this is a goof from college, but like I joined a fraternity and people that used to make fun of me or give me a hard time, they go, oh, you just bought a bunch of friends. It's a little bit like that in the sense that if you're a member of provisors, you're kind of part of a club. And so you have access to people just by saying, you know, I'm in provisors and I heard your name and I'd like to get to know you and meet you. Most likely they'll take the meeting, right? So it's someone across the country that's in a different practice area, but you know it's a practice area that can routinely refer you. The likelihood that that meeting's going to happen goes way, way up than if you called them randomly. Okay,
So
Kevin?
if I can say something, I mean, everybody
Sure.
bitches about, the $2,000 price for provisors, but, one case, really takes that away. For me, I remember about 6 months into provisors, I got a case, $7,500, right? My fee was taken care of. If you talk about a case I got 2 weeks ago, or no, about a month and a half ago, I got a $10,000 retainer that was spent in 1 week. Right. And so I'm already up to $20,000 or $30,000. So, I mean, if you're looking at it over the long term, it's a no brainer.
But I think that number is important because if it was $500, anyone would join, and 2,000 makes it a little more, a little more challenging for people who aren't quite as serious.
That's a great
Yeah.
point. Because when KLTR was bought out by provisors, all the suburban groups were let go, right? And so we developed our own group, and some of you may know it. I'm not trying to poo-poo it or anything like that because I helped found it, right? The biggest mistake that I think we did was to say that the entry fee to that group was $250. And because what do you get at that point? You get a lot of people who are, let's say, insurance salesmen. No offense to any insurance salesmen out there, but insurance salesmen who just kind of come in and say, here, I'm going to throw out $250, and they have no networking capability, right? They don't have a network that can help you. And really all they're trying to do is sell you something. And it just never made sense. So I agree with you completely, Steve.
Yeah. So again, it's a great opportunity, Jay. I'm happy to work with you on that in more detail. Any of you that are going to conferences, joining networking events, Eliza, you're going to DC, like, let's make sure we talk about how to prepare and get those networks built. Kevin, did you have something to add?
More of a question, maybe for Keith or yourself, because I've heard a lot about providers from a number of people in the class. One of the things that has deterred me from networking groups, I've been involved in many of them over the years, has been people feel pressure to make referrals, introductions. And what I found happening to a significant degree is getting inundated with these really silly, ineffectual referrals.
Yeah.
And, is there any element of that in provisors, or is it more serious than that?
It generally, I'll answer this, Keith, first, if you're okay with
Yeah,
it. So
go ahead.
I would say generally they're more serious, they're more real. There's actual business being passed. Are there, like, I just got someone wants to, a past client of mine who's in provisors wants to introduce me to a guy who does virtual CFO, like he's an interim CFO. And I already know a bunch of them, but I'm not really getting referrals. So I said, yeah, but he asked me for permission first. He didn't just make the email introduction. Now I'm stuck on it and I got to deal with it. He asked for permission. Now, maybe that's because he went through this class. I'm not sure, but Keith, what are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree with you. I mean, of course, you're going to get a couple of prospects or a couple of introductions that just aren't going to go anywhere. Okay, it's just going to happen as people are trying to search for you. But honestly, 90% of the people, referrals that I get are either for real business. Maybe the people I can't help them, right? There's not a fit there, but the person referring that person over to me didn't know that there wouldn't be a fit, right? They were really trying to help out more than anything else.
Yeah.
And it's really a go-giver kind of mentality. So for provisors, I think that's great. There's other organizations out there that do the same thing, right? You just want to make sure you're qualified with people that aren't, once again, no offense to, let's say, BNI, which requires you to bring in a referral each week, right? Or every once a month or whatever, and you're actually graded on that performance. Provisors does not have that type of policy, and there's other groups out there that don't have that type of policy. You're only making a referral if you really think it will help somebody out. But yeah, I agree with you, Kevin, though. These places that say bring a referral, well, I mean, I've been in a couple of those meetings, and they bring me like a plumber who maybe I'll get $250 out of it. Is it worth my time? No, right? So you don't want that, and provisors doesn't have that.